My wife lied about a work conference. HR exposed her. She came home to an empty house, divorce papers, and lost everything. My name is Alex. I'm 35 years old, and I've been married to Melissa, 32, for almost 8 years. We first met back in college, and from that moment on, I thought she was the love of my life. For the better part of our marriage, I believed we were solid, steady, and unshakable. We didn't have kids, something Melissa always said could wait because she wanted to focus on us a little longer. I went along with it because I trusted her, and I never doubted her intentions. Melissa had a life that kept her busy. She was often away for events, late-night obligations, or trips she couldn't really get out of. It wasn't unusual for her to call me last minute and say she'd be late or wouldn't be home until the weekend. I never thought twice about it, because up until then, she'd never given me a reason not to trust her. I always believed she had our marriage as her top priority. But one Thursday night, things started to fall apart. I was at home making dinner when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. "Hey babe, conference extended another day. Don't wait up for me tonight. I'll probably be back Saturday evening. Love you." I read it once, shrugged, and put the phone back down. Conferences running late wasn't unusual for her. It wasn't the kind of message that made me suspicious. If anything, it was routine by now. I assumed she'd be busy for a couple more days, and I tried to carry on with my night. About an hour later, though, my phone rang. The name on the screen surprised me. It was Patricia, someone from Melissa's company I'd only spoken to briefly before. She apologized for calling so late and asked a question that caught me completely off guard. "Hi Alex, sorry to bother you. Is Melissa feeling any better? She called in sick this morning and said she wouldn't make it to the retreat." For a second, I froze. The words didn't line up with what I had just read in her text. My wife told me she was away at a conference for the next 2 nights, but here was her colleague telling me she wasn't there at all, that she'd called out sick. I tried to keep my voice steady. "She says she's okay. Thanks for checking in." When I hung up, I sat there with the phone still in my hand, staring at her message. "Conference extended. Don't wait up. Saturday evening. Love you." But now I had someone else's word, someone reliable, telling me she never even showed up. At first, I wanted to believe it was some mix-up. Maybe Patricia was wrong. Maybe Melissa had explained something differently, and it just got confused along the way. But the more I replayed it, the more that unease grew inside me. That was the first time I truly felt the ground shift. It wasn't explosive, not yet. It was subtle, quiet, like noticing a crack in the wall of a house you thought was perfectly built. I wanted to brush it off, but something in me wouldn't let it go. That little voice, the one we often ignore, kept whispering, "Look closer." I had no idea that this one text and that one phone call would be the start of unraveling not just her lies, but the entire foundation of our marriage. After Patricia's call, I sat in silence for a long time, staring at Melissa's text. The words looked different now, almost mocking in their simplicity. "Conference extended. Don't wait up. Saturday evening. Love you." If I hadn't answered that phone call, I would have believed her. I would have brushed off the whole weekend as just another trip. That realization hit me hard. How easily a lie could blend into the routine if no one questioned it. I tried to tell myself it was a misunderstanding, that maybe she had called in sick, but still decided to go to the retreat late. But the pieces didn't line up. Why would she text me saying her conference was extended if she wasn't even there in the first place? That nagging thought wouldn't leave me. Finally, I decided to check something I hadn't looked at in a while, our shared credit card account. Within a minute, I was staring at a transaction that made my chest tighten. $412 at the Maplewood Inn. It wasn't the retreat hotel, that was across state lines, several hundred miles away. Maplewood was a boutique place just 25 miles from our house, the kind of spot couples booked for a quick weekend getaway. The date and time matched the night she was supposedly at the conference. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. Maybe she booked a room for a client. Maybe she just needed a quiet space for herself. But then I remembered the other tool at my disposal, Find My iPhone. Melissa had lost her phone last year, and I'd set up the tracker for her. I opened the app now, more out of a desperate need to confirm than anything else. The dot appeared on the screen almost instantly, sitting right on top of Maplewood Inn. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. It was more like a door closing in my head, a switch flipping. The kind of calm you get when you finally admit something you didn't want to admit. I picked up the phone and called the one person I knew I could trust with this, my best friend, Eric. He's been my closest friend since high school, the kind of guy who always gave it to me straight. And, conveniently, he's also a divorce attorney. When he answered, I tried to keep it light. "Hey man, quick hypothetical for you. If someone wanted to file for divorce because of cheating, what kind of proof would they need?" There was a pause. "Alex, what happened?" I hesitated, then said it out loud for the first time. "She told me she's at a work conference. HR says she called in sick. I just found a $400 charge at Maplewood Inn. Her phone's there right now. I have the texts. I have the receipts. I have her location. Eric was quiet for a few seconds, and then I heard him let out a long sigh. All right, bring me screenshots. Save everything. If you're serious about this, I can draft papers tonight. I stared around the house, the photos on the wall, the furniture we picked together, the life we built. And in that moment, it didn't feel like mine anymore. I realized something important. I wasn't furious, not in the way I thought I would be. I wasn't shouting, pacing, or breaking things. I just felt done. After I hung up with Eric, I sat in the living room for what felt like hours. The quiet of the house pressed in around me. Everything we owned together suddenly looked different, like props from a play I hadn't realized I was in. I took screenshots of everything. Melissa's text, the call log with Patricia, the credit card statement, and her location at Maplewood Inn. I sent them to Eric, and within minutes he texted back. Got it. I'll draft the papers tonight. You're in a strong position. No kids. Prenup. House is yours. Clean break. That phrase stuck with me. Clean break. I hadn't even said the words divorce out loud to myself yet, but now it was sitting in my lap like it had been waiting there all along. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I started moving through the house, methodically packing Melissa's things. I grabbed boxes from the garage and filled them one by one. Her clothes, her shoes, her jewelry, the framed pictures of her and her friends. I wasn't tossing things angrily or smashing photo frames like you see in movies. I was careful. I folded her sweaters, wrapped her trinkets, set aside her keepsakes. It felt less like rage and more like closure. Like I was preparing a space for myself again, stripping away everything that wasn't mine. By dawn, most of her things were boxed up and stacked neatly in the garage. The house looked strangely empty, but not in a painful way, more like it could breathe again. Around noon, Eric came by with a manila folder in his hand. He placed it on the kitchen counter and said simply, "It's done." Inside were the divorce papers, ready to be served. All it needed was my signature. I read through them slowly, the legal language feeling both heavy and freeing at the same time. With the prenup Melissa had pushed for years ago, almost everything stayed with me. At the time, she was making more money than I was and wanted to protect herself. The irony wasn't lost on me now. It was that same prenup that guaranteed she wouldn't walk away with much. I signed the papers. That evening, Melissa's texts started coming in again, as if nothing had changed. "Hey babe, crazy day? Workshop's running late. Can't call right now. Love you." I stared at the message. I didn't respond. At 9 p.m., another text. "Sorry I missed your call earlier. I'll explain everything tomorrow. Good night, love." There was no missed call. She was lying on autopilot now, layering excuses over a story that didn't exist. By 11 p.m., she started calling. I let it ring. Midnight, another call. Straight to voicemail. At 1:15 a.m., a final text buzzed through. "Driving home now. Miss you." I sat in the darkened kitchen, waiting. The papers were on the counter, her boxes lined up in the garage. I didn't feel anxious about the confrontation. I felt ready. Whatever version of Melissa walked through that door, I already knew what my answer would be. The clock ticked past 2 a.m. when I finally heard the sound of tires crunching on the driveway. Headlights swept across the blinds before the engine shut off. A few moments later, the front door opened, and Melissa stepped inside. She called out softly, "Alex? You awake?" Her voice was casual, even a little tired, like she'd just come back from a normal late night at work. She set her purse down and slipped off her heels, probably expecting me to be on the couch waiting. But the living room was empty. No TV humming, no lights on, just silence. I stayed still in the guest room down the hall, listening. A few seconds later, I heard her footsteps pause. She must have noticed the space. Walls bare of her pictures, shelves cleared of her things. Then she walked into the kitchen. I imagined her eyes landing on the stack of divorce papers spread across the counter, the yellow sticky note on top with just a few words. "Melissa, this isn't a mistake." "Alex." For a long while, there was nothing, just silence. Then a sharp intake of breath, the sound of paper shuffling, and the scrape of a chair being pulled out. I didn't move. I didn't want to see her right then. I wanted the reality to hit her without me there to explain it. By 2:30 a.m., my phone lit up with call after call. First once, then twice, then over and over again. When I didn't answer, the messages started pouring in. "Alex, what is this? We need to talk now. This isn't funny. Where are you?" When I still didn't respond, she must have figured out where I was. The call stopped for about 20 minutes. Then Eric's phone lit up. He later told me it was Melissa pounding on his door at nearly 3 a.m. Eric's wife, Sarah, was the one who answered. She told me later how Melissa went from confused to furious in a matter of seconds. Melissa demanded to see me, insisting she had a right to an explanation. She waved the papers in Sarah's face and accused me of setting her up. Sarah didn't flinch. She looked her square in the eye and said calmly, "Alex doesn't want to see you. The divorce papers on the counter make that clear. Go home." Melissa's tone changed then, anger boiling over into desperation. She shouted that it was illegal, that she had rights, that I couldn't just pack up her things and toss her out of her own home. Sarah held her ground. Finally, Melissa stormed off in tears, slamming the door behind her. Eric came into the guest room after things quieted down. He sat on the edge of the bed and said, "She's not going to make this easy." I nodded. I know. That was the moment it hit me. Melissa wasn't going to just sign and walk away. Whatever storm she had been hiding behind her lies was about to spill into my life in ways I hadn't even imagined yet. I didn't feel triumphant or even relieved. What I felt was a kind of weary acceptance. The marriage I thought we had was already gone. Now came the fight she wasn't ready to lose. And sure enough, by the next morning, she proved just how far she was willing to go. By sunrise, my phone looked like a disaster zone. Over 60 missed calls, dozens of unread messages. Melissa had tried everything in the span of a few hours. At first, it was denial. "This is just a huge misunderstanding, Alex. Please pick up. We can fix this." When I didn't reply, her tone sharpened. "You're really going to throw away 8 years over some miscommunication? Pathetic." Then came bargaining. "Can we sit down and talk? I'll explain everything. Just one conversation. Please." By mid-morning, she was piling on the guilt. "After everything we've been through, you're abandoning me when I need you most?" I scrolled through them all without answering, each one a different mask of the same desperation. By Saturday afternoon, the story shifting began. She said she hadn't gone to the retreat because she was overwhelmed and needed space. She claimed she'd booked Maplewood in for a mental health break, that she couldn't tell me because she thought I'd see it as selfish. It might have worked if I didn't already know more than she realized. That evening, Eric dropped by with something new. He'd run a quick background check through a contact of his. Melissa had booked the Maplewood in under her name and another guest. Daniel K. I recognized the name instantly. He was the same guy who'd been hovering around her social media for months, dropping heart emojis under her posts, slipping little compliments into comments she never deleted. I'd brushed it off before, telling myself it was harmless. Now I knew better. I sat with that information for a long time. My hands weren't shaking. My chest wasn't burning. It was a strange kind of calm, like the last piece of the puzzle sliding into place. Later that night, another flood of texts came through. "Alex, I swear it wasn't what it looks like. Daniel was just helping me out, that's all. Nothing happened. I only lied because I didn't want you to judge me for needing time away." But every word rang hollow. Lies layered on top of lies. For the first time since this all started, I felt something like anger. Not explosive, not out of control, but sharp and steady. She wasn't just trying to cover her tracks. She was insulting my intelligence, rewriting the story to fit whatever angle she thought might get me back on the hook. That night, she tried calling again, her voice breaking on the voicemails. I let them play out without answering. When the last one ended, I looked around the house, the empty shelves, the boxed-up reminders of her, and I felt strangely lighter. Melissa wasn't panicking because she'd lost me. She was panicking because she'd lost control of the story she'd been spinning for months, maybe years. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of her unraveling. By Saturday night, Melissa had switched tactics again. When she realized I wasn't picking up her calls, she drove to my parents' house. My mom later told me she showed up crying at their door, saying I had abandoned her without warning. She begged them to talk some sense into me. My mom led her inside, sat her down, and listened. For about 5 minutes, Melissa spun her story, how she was overwhelmed, how I'd taken things the wrong way, how this was all just a misunderstanding. When she finally stopped, my mom said quietly, "Melissa, if you wanted to work on your marriage, you wouldn't be sneaking off to hotels." She handed her a glass of water, told her to get some rest, and asked her to leave. My dad said later it was the calmest he'd ever seen my mom handle someone she wanted to strangle. By Sunday morning, Melissa had shifted to her next stage, going public. On Facebook, she posted vague quotes about toxic partners and being emotionally neglected. She painted herself as the victim, the one who had been mistreated, the one blindsided by a cold and controlling husband. A couple of her friends reached out to me, parroting her words. I didn't argue. I just sent them screenshots of her text messages, the credit card charge, and the Maplewood in booking. Most of them never replied again. But the fallout wasn't limited to our marriage. On Monday morning, Patricia, the HR manager who had first tipped me off, called again. This time, she wasn't just checking in. She sounded concerned. "Alex, I just wanted to let you know. Melissa hasn't been into work since Wednesday, and people are starting to talk. She told us she was too sick to attend the retreat, but it's become clear she wasn't sick at all. I can't go into details, but there's an investigation." By Tuesday, Melissa's worst fear came true. She was fired, officially for dishonesty and violating company policy. Word spread quickly through her professional circle. What had once been her pride and identity had slipped through her fingers overnight. That same day, she showed up at my office building. I got a text from a coworker. "Your wife is in the lobby, crying and demanding to see you." When I didn't come down, security escorted her out. But she didn't leave quietly. She sat in her car in the parking lot for nearly 2 hours, calling me over and over. When I still didn't answer, the tone of her messages shifted again. This time, they were threats. "If you don't talk to me, I'll tell everyone how controlling and emotionally abusive you were. You're not as perfect as you think. I'll ruin your reputation if you don't fix this." I forwarded them to Eric. His reply was short. "Let her. Judges love when they try this nonsense. It only makes your case stronger." It was surreal, watching the woman I'd once trusted more than anyone unravel piece by piece, trying every angle to pull me back in. But no matter what mask she put on, victim, manipulator, aggressor, I didn't feel moved to reach out. What I didn't know then was that someone else was about to hand me the final proof I needed, the kind that would close this chapter for good. On Wednesday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice introduced herself. "Hi, Alex. My name's Rachel. I think we need to talk. I'm Daniel's wife." Daniel, the name from the Maplewood booking. We met later that afternoon at a small cafe. Rachel didn't waste time. She laid everything out on the table. Literally, a folder stuffed with photos, credit card bills, and screenshots. She told me she had suspected Daniel for months and finally hired a private investigator. What she uncovered confirmed what I already knew and revealed even more. Melissa and Daniel hadn't just been at Maplewood. There were at least 3 other hotels, stretching back weeks. Rachel showed me messages Daniel had sent to his buddies, bragging about hooking up with the boss's event planner, like it was some kind of trophy. I sat there in disbelief. Not at the betrayal. I'd already accepted that, but at how careless it all was. Melissa had risked everything, and for what? A guy who treated her like a punchline in a group chat. Rachel gave a humorless laugh. "The funniest part? He's not some big shot like your wife probably made him out to be. He's a mid-level coordinator making barely 50 grand a year. I'm the one who makes double that. Your wife thought she was trading up. Turns out, she got downgraded." There was something almost comforting about hearing it from Rachel. We weren't alone in this mess. We were both dealing with partners who had underestimated us. By the time we parted ways, my phone had lit up again with messages from Melissa. "I made a mistake. He lied to me. I want us back. Please let's fix this." I didn't reply. Eric filed the papers that same week. In court, Melissa tried to claim I'd abandoned her emotionally, spinning the story to make herself sound like the victim. But the judge wasn't buying it. The prenup held firm. No kids, no shared property, and plenty of evidence of her affair. The ruling was simple. Melissa got her belongings. I kept the house. She was even ordered to pay a portion of my legal fees because of her harassment. The last time I saw her was outside the courthouse. She looked drained, eyes red, makeup streaked, clutching a stack of papers like they might crumble in her hands. She stared at me for a long time before saying, "I hope you're happy. You ruined my life." I looked her in the eye and answered, "No, Melissa, you ruined it yourself." That was it. No dramatic goodbye, no chance for her to twist the knife again. Now, months later, she's back living with her mom, unemployed, and, according to mutual friends, trying to rebrand herself as a wellness blogger. Meanwhile, I've moved on. I got promoted at work, started dating someone new, and for the first time in years, I feel genuinely free. The only thing I sometimes think about is how easily she lied. A casual text, a heart emoji, and "I love you" sprinkled in like sugar on poison. Looking back, I wonder how many other conferences were really just a hotel room 25 miles away. But that's not my problem anymore. I've closed that chapter. She has to live in the one she wrote for herself. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.